All right.
All right. So basically, I wanted to kind of ask you pretty much about the current pandemic that's in place and what your thoughts on that were.
Um, well, quite naturally, we're talking about when you're talking about pandemics, you're talking about, in this case, we're talking about viruses. All right, and we're talking about a specific virus, and which I'm not going to deal with the name because I don't want this video to get flagged. So we're just going to deal with viruses and bacteria. All right, I do it that way. And the thing is that when you're dealing with viruses and bacteria, viruses and bacteria are part of life. All right, they're part of they are in fact, especially in the case of bacteria, living organisms. Now the medical people have said that viruses are not living entities. All right, they say that viruses are not alive. So, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting scientific concept because when you're talking about developing something that could kill a virus or neutralize a virus, if something is not alive, then how do you kill it? But that's for them to figure out. But anyway, um, viruses are gonna be here. All right, viruses have been here. They're gonna be here. They're not going anywhere. The thing that helps to fight off viruses and bacteria is number one, keeping your immune system at its optimum level. And I think that's one of the things that when people talk about these viruses and bacterias and global pandemics, I don't think they emphasize that enough. And I think that you have to go back to the work. In my estimation, you have to go back to the work of one of my master teachers, Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi dealt with healing, giving you the information to appropriate healing in your body, not the natural way. Um, so when you're dealing with healing, the first stage of healing, like I had mentioned earlier before we got on tape, is detoxing. So when you detox, you're giving your body a chance to rest, to regenerate itself, and to gather the necessary energy to flush toxins out, and then oxygenate yourself to accelerate the healing process. Because really, when you're dealing with any type of real disease type condition, um, in the protocol of a holistic healer, that which Dr. Sebi was, and Dr. Sebi didn't use the term holistic, but I'm using the term holistic because holistic deals with, as I define it, it deals with mind, body, and spirit and soul. So to some people those would be abstract terms, but in my world those are real terms. Those terms are reality. So I'm dealing with the protocol of coming from Dr. Sebi, which talks about trying to drink up to a gallon of water a day, eating mostly fruits and vegetables. Um, but again, like I said on the last video, I'm not telling people that they need to stop eating meat necessarily. That's a personal choice. But I can tell you that if you eliminate meat, or at least drastically reduce your meat intake, your body will heal faster because you do not have the acidic condition that meat produces in your body. Your body, because it is acidic, produces mucus, and the mucus is what Dr. Sebi in particular said that mucus is the cause of all disease. Because,
Dr. Anka Aturi,
yes.
could you give us a little bit of insight on the current pandemic this going on, or really the protests? Can you give us a little insight on the
protests?
On the protests?
Well, the protests are stemming. It started out primarily as from what I was able to gather from the reaction to the George Floyd incident where their brother lost his life. And of course, you know, these type of incidents have been happening not only in this country but around the world, but primarily, you know, dealing with in the context of what these protests started from is from seeing George Floyd choked out, and but that's a symptom to me of racism. All right, systemic racism. All right, and you know, you got people saying there is no systemic racism in the U.S. Right, but they know that the people that are making those type of statements, they know that there's this systemic racism. Racism, to me, is the number one global problem. It's definitely a problem in the U.S., but it's not just confined to the U.S. It's a global problem.
So you're saying that's the number one global pandemic that's been going on throughout time?
If you wanna label racism as a pandemic, then yeah, because I would, since racism first came on the scene, and I don't really have a definite or definitive date, but I would say racism as we know it today basically probably came on the scene somewhere around the 1400s. All right, especially in this hemisphere. And let me define racism before I go any further. I'll give you my definition. I have a better, more extensive definition that was given to us on the subject by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. But I'm not going to read her definition because I don't have it with me, and I don't want to misquote what she put down as her definition. It's much more extensive. But in my mind, racism is mistreatment, brutality, control, and domination of one person or group of persons over another person or group of persons based on skin color. So that's my definition of racism: mistreatment, brutality, control, and domination. And so therefore, when I'm talking about racism, I'm talking about white supremacy, and you can use those terms interchangeably when referring to racism, because there is no other functional racism on this planet in this present day time but white supremacy, because black people cannot control or dominate, and they haven't controlled or dominated white people in the context of what we're dealing with right now. So yeah, black people can be bigoted or prejudiced, but they can't be racist, because racism is a system. It's a system that's put together by people, and people definitely control it. But when you ask who the races are, nobody wants to own up in most cases to being a racist. Although there are some people that will openly claim it but they're in the minority. All right.
Would you be able to give any insight to the fact that there were once Muslim slave owners 1,000 years prior to European colonialization? Would you be able to give any insight on that? Or would you be able to give any insight on Native Americans owning slaves as well here in North America?
Well, I'll give a little insight. You want to deal with the Arab slave trade first, because when you're saying Muslims, it's kind of tricky, because it's really more the Arab slave trade than it is Muslims.
What is an Arab?
An Arab, as defined in common terms today, would be a person that inhabits or